Hey there everyone, it's OG. On the 6th of September, I'm going to start playing Starfield. For those new to my channel, I've been mainly playing Kerbal Space Program 2 up until now, but the less said about that disappointing experience, the better. Though I wish their development team well, and I hope that one day they'll deliver a decent game worth playing. As a proper old school OG gamer, I seldom just jump into a game and start shooting. Instead, I'm known for meticulously researching and planning my playthroughs before the time, especially in Bethesda titles like the Fallout series. Due to the fact that Starfield is a brand new, relatively poorly documented release, that is not possible. So I'm going to have to adopt a more Kerbal Space Program playstyle and just wing it. Be that as it may, I will be trying to port some of my gaming experience across to Starfield to maximize my in-game effectiveness, for want of a better word. So this is how I'm going to play Starfield. From what I've seen so far, there are two major factors which influence the abilities of your Starfield character, and therefore which options are available to you in the game. That's your background and your skills, with traits being a lesser, though non-negligible consideration. I'm cool with this, it's what I like to see. Games should be difficult and limiting, it makes them more realistic, more of a challenge. Apparently it takes a long time to level up in Starfield, which is also how it should be. What that means is that I'll have to select my background and skills very carefully. Now there is a standard gaming hack for this. Let's call it specialization. The wrong thing to do in a game like Starfield is to attempt to allocate a point or two to every skill, to be a jack of all trades. Your character will end up being owned by powerful NPCs and will struggle to progress through difficult checkpoints. If you've played Mass Effect 2, then you'll know the importance of being either fully Paragon or fully Renegade. Those who chose the middle path suffered because of it. What you should do is build a highly specialized character who has considerable strength in a few specific areas. Then you double down by maximizing those areas of competence out and almost ignore everything else. I say almost because you'll find some symbiotic traits or skills which aren't directly related to your core build, but which can help you a lot. For instance, being able to carry a lot of objects results in a major bonus in just about everything you do, especially if you're a hoarder like myself. I enjoy collecting anything and everything, thereby maximizing my ability to craft items and to make money by selling off excess inventory. Again, this is not Starfield specific, just general gaming strategy. In Starfield you have skills which allow you to carry more, so expect me to grab those early on in the game, perhaps even right at the very beginning by choosing a background which includes them. Lockpicking is another such ability. Like the ability to carry a lot, lockpicking has proven to be extremely useful to me during the Fallout games. But what will my core focus areas be, and what will I ignore? I'm going to fight my way through Starfield, and I'm going to do so in a fairly narrow manner. I've said before that Starfield looks like a cross between Mass Effect and Elite Dangerous, and that's how I'm going to approach it. For combat on foot, I'll be creating a build much like I normally use in Mass Effect. I like one-shot kills. I like really, really, really powerful guns, and I prefer to kill from range. For that reason, my weapon of choice is usually a fully maxed out damage sniper rifle, something with a low rate of fire but with incredibly high alpha damage per shot. Expect me to use a sniper rifle in Starfield, a big heavy modded one that hits hard. To overcome the weaknesses of the sniper rifle, dealing with groups of enemies, I will surely need a secondary weapon. In Mass Effect this was a shotgun or grenades. In Starfield I'll need to see what's available. Submachine guns, pistols, shotguns, grenades, etc. I will probably pick the most effective one to complement my sniper rifle, so that I can focus on leveling up and modding only one other weapon type. Which is not strictly true, because Starfield has a jetpack, and I'm going to use that a lot. Appreciating that it probably won't pair well with a sniper rifle, I anticipate carrying a heavy weapon which I will also mod, level up and specialize in something along the lines of a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher, or maybe I'll just throw grenades from the air. Again, I'll have to see what's available and how well the jetpack works. To make this build possible, I will probably sacrifice most social skills. I doubt I'll be bargaining with people. As interesting as it sounds, I probably won't try intimidation tactics. And I'll end up having to pay full price to merchants for just about anything I buy. I'll be a lousy cook, and in combat terms I'll have very few skills related to things such as unarmed combat, or tied to the types of weapons that I'm not using. I don't know yet if I'll choose energy weapons like lasers, or ballistic weapons, or I think there's EM weapons, or whatever else. Again, I need to see what's available. I need to actually test them out, that's what I need to do. I can already see from other guides roughly what's available, but I need to see what works for me. Expect me to choose one type of weapon tech and focus on it to the exclusion of all the others. So if I choose lasers, I won't touch ballistics. I doubt I'll touch outpost building. As nice as the outposts look, I won't mess with that until well into the game. I'll be spending those points elsewhere in the earlier gameplay. The armor I choose will be designed to complement my weapons and playstyle. Whatever gives bonuses to things like heavy weapons, sniper rifles, jetpacks, etc. will be what I wear. I generally also like an armor which protects against all kinds of harm a little bit, rather than just against one kind of harm a big bit. Of course, Starfield is not just a ground combat game, there's this whole big space element to the game as well. Ship combat is something I love even more than ground combat, and I will be participating in quite a lot of it. Unfortunately, the ship combat in Starfield does appear to be rather simplistic in nature. It's more arcade style than flight sim style, at least that's my perception. So I expect to be flying with a mouse instead of with a joystick, which isn't ideal, but I'll make it work. As for the ships themselves, well, that's a whole different story. Yeah, I will call extensively on my Elite Dangerous experience, my X-Universe, my Freelancer, my Wing Commander, etc, etc. It's apparent to me that I'll need quite a few ships, though I get the impression that ships are expensive, and are the kind of thing you only start amassing after you've finished the main playthrough. I have an idea or two about what I can do to partially shortcut that. From games like Elite, I know the absolute importance of having ships designed for particular roles. In Elite I have a couple of general duty ships, but I have other dedicated ones too. So I'll always use my faithful old Python for mining. I'll always use my Crate Mark II when I want to fly a fighter in combat. I'll always use my Fer de Lance when I have a serious fight on my hands. I'll always use my Diamondback Explorer for long-range exploration, etc, etc. I played the X-Universe the same way, and I'll be playing Starfield that way too. Like in Elite Dangerous, where you use the Cobra Mark III for all your early missions, it's probably going to take a while before I can afford and get access to enough decent ships in order to kit them out for specific jobs. So my first couple of ships will be sadly unspecialized general duty ships, which excel at nothing in particular. I'll just have to rely on my legendary piloting skills. Once I start specializing, expect to see me build a combat ship which has at least one extra powerful weapon. As with a sniper rifle, I prefer to one-shot kill in space. But most of all, I want my combat ship to be highly maneuverable. I will happily sacrifice just about everything to create a maneuverable, lightweight build. Expect to see a ship with minimal armor, no cargo capacity, a meager jump drive, or grav drive as Starfield calls it, probably fair shields, which I prefer to armor since shields can normally recharge in combat, a massive gun, huge engines, and sufficient power reserves. In theory, this will let me dance around other ships while dealing heavy blows. In theory. I may have to change tack if that theory is unsound. Speaking of power reserves, I see that Starfield has some sort of power management system. Those who've played Elite Dangerous will be familiar with something like this. I'm absolutely used to juggling power management on the fly, even if I'm a little out of practice. It will also help that I don't intend to carry many classes of weapon, at least not on my specialist combat ship. Yes, I know that some weapons work better against, for example, armor, while others work better against things like shields. But the weight penalty incurred by carrying additional weapons is seldom worth it. In addition to my combat ship, I want an exploration ship. Something that can jump far and which has good scanning abilities. I enjoy exploration, and I aim to make that a secondary or tertiary skill tree of mine. It may also be profitable, and I expect it to allow me to meet companions, gain a lot of resources, and probably find rare or hidden valuable items. I'll also probably have some sort of transport vessel to haul my loot around. Where I'll put it all before I get that vessel is a mystery which remains to be solved. I'll think of something. I see people have been dumping things on the decks of their ships. That's probably going to be my style. As for how I acquire these additional ships, well, I simply intend to just take them. There's a targeting skill which allows you to knock out specific items on enemy ships. I hope to become an expert at disabling ships and then boarding them, eliminating the existing crew and claiming the ship as my own. I know they'll need repair, and that there is a registration cost if you want to mod them, but I think this will be a good way to either gain new ships, or to grab myself high value ships worth selling. Then there's also a trait which makes you a wanted man. I'm strongly thinking of picking this. I like the idea of mercs randomly spawning to hunt me down. This will allow me to level up by killing bad guys, without annoying anyone else too much, and enable me to take their ships afterwards. That sounds like a huge bonus to me. I wish those mercs the best of luck. They're gonna need it. One thing I've seen little mention of, though it has come up in a few videos, are the powers that you gain in the game. Yes, and I absolutely did Dr. Evil air quotes when I said powers. The powers you gain in a game. I don't know much about them, but they do appear to be formidable, and depending on what they are, how they work, and when I can get them, I may decide to redirect my entire character build to be centered around them. While my Mass Effect sniper characters were extremely overpowered and deadly in a fight, I did also find that the right combination of powers, or what they call biotics in Mass Effect, were similarly devastating, if only in Mass Effect 3. Take a look at this game footage from Mass Effect 3, where I have a highly leveled up character who possesses the Biotic Charge and Nova abilities, allowing her to shoot across a distance, knock her opponent over, and then perform a powerful slam that blasts everything away from it, before repeating the process. Done with the right character build, equipment and specializations, you can perform this combo pretty much indefinitely. If Starfield has something like this, I may well use it rather than my trusty old sniper rifle. Or maybe I'll do it in the next playthrough. To make up for my weaknesses and my gross inadequacies, I'll choose companions who complement my character build. For example, if I've got no medical skill, I may take a medic into combat with me, or if I have no exploration skill, I may take a scavenger with me to go hunting for loot. I generally try to get as many companions as possible, since they all have their uses. If nothing else, I'll use my companions as pack mules to carry all my loot around. But what about the factions? The big powerful organizations which can either hinder or help you through your playthrough? Well, traditionally, I don't like the big government organizations, just like in real life. I'm an anarchist to the core, and this is reflected in my gameplay. So whoever isn't part of a big corrupt political machine, that's probably who I'll side with. This doesn't necessarily mean I'll be a pirate or a religious zealot. Again, I'm going to wing it and see what appeals to me at the time. I will try to stay in the good books of most factions without making enemies unnecessarily, but invariably I normally end up being mortal enemies with a couple of the major players. For instance, in Fallout 4 I joined the Railroad, which resulted in me betraying the Brotherhood of Steel and fighting the Institute from the moment I met them, making a lot of very powerful enemies along the way. No regrets. As a completionist, expect me to prioritize side quests over the main storyline. I'm not a speedrunner, quite the opposite. I'm the tortoise, not the hare. I'm the guy who wants to see and do everything on my journey to the end of the game. I want to find the rare weapons and armors and ships and artifacts. I want to see all the sights. I want to explore and experience a bit of everything. I've heard it said by reviewers more than once now that Starfield is a mile wide and an inch deep. They cite the 1,000 explorable worlds in 100 systems, but say that the main quest story is fairly linear and not very deep. Honestly, that doesn't bother me in the least. I never played Fallout games for the story. I played them for the gameplay itself, and all the cool little side quests and places to explore. As for the huge map of 1,000 worlds in 100 systems, I can only laugh at that. Walk a mile in my Elite Dangerous shoes. In Elite, there are over 400 billion star systems, almost all of which contain planets and moons of their own, many of which you can land on and explore. And that's to say nothing of all the space stations, which make up the bulk of Elite's main landing sites. Also, there's no fast travel. You want to fly somewhere, you physically fly there, in a 1-to-1 scale universe. The story in Elite is basically a side issue, which you don't even have to get involved in at all if you don't want to. So, no, reviewers, a mile wide and an inch deep is not a valid concern in a game like this. If you want a good story, go play The Witcher 3. If you want the best story ever told in any format ever, then go play the Mass Effect trilogy, which even The Witcher has to bow to in terms of story.
Ow. Your Imperial Majesty, I thought you bowed before no man.
From what I've seen so far, Bethesda have been true to their word, and Starfield is as they say it is. Not bad for a title which is still early access. KSP2, take note. Now that the early access players are allowed to publish their reviews, I'm learning a lot about it and I'm starting to plan my playthrough, but for the most part I'll still be learning things the hard way. Unlike my KSP2 videos, my Starfield ones will be mainly just gameplay, narrated gameplay. I'll cut the boring bits out of course, but the game itself will dictate my general actions, unlike in KSP2 where I did the mission planning and vessel construction myself. I hope you will enjoy watching my Starfield gameplay as much as I enjoy playing it. So stick around because hopefully it will be starting soon. P.S. For those wondering, no, live streaming will not be a thing for me. My internet connection won't even begin to think of allowing me to do that. Not to mention the traditional South African power interruptions a few times a day. See you soon on the battlefields of Starfield. For now, OG out.